Good afternoon to everyone. I appreciate everybody taking the time to join us. My name is Mark Reeves, Executive Director with TSSAA. I've got several members of our staff that will introduce at the appropriate time, but again, just appreciate you taking some time out of your busy day to spend some time with us, and hopefully we can provide you with a little bit of information that might help you as you continue your quest to serve the students in your school. The presentation that we have today is going to cover an array of topics. It is being recorded, so if there is a need for you to hop off at any time, that will be fine. If you register for this webinar, you will have access to it on the back end. There's also a chat feature that's available. We'll have someone that's monitoring the chat, and we'll try to answer those questions as they come in, if there's something that pertains to the agenda or maybe even something that's off the agenda. But we'll also have some time at the end for some questions and answers if you wanted to wait until that time as well. The webinar is scheduled to last till 2:30. I'm not sure it's going to last that long. Today's session is going to cover the organizational structure of TSSAA, communication and role of the athletic director. We'll have a piece for compliance, just some basic compliance strategies. An eligibility overview. We'll talk a little bit about unsportsmanlike conduct of coaches, student athletes, and fans. A little bit about social media and recruiting rules. It's something that's come up a few times this year. And then media regulations, postseason streaming fees, NFHS network opportunities. That'll round up our agenda for today. And then we'll have a little question and answer session at the end. We'll be back on at the same time tomorrow for some more topics. And again, time schedule is 1 to 2:30, and we'll have our friends with the TIAAA that are going to be joining us. And I do want to thank Mike Elson, the Executive Director of the TIAAA. Mike will have a significant portion of the program tomorrow, and it's been a great partnership with the TIAAA, our State Athletic Directors Association. This is something, I think this is our third year of doing this meeting, and I feel like that it's been helpful to our new athletic directors. But quite frankly, there's a lot of information that we'll cover today that is good for those who have been around for a while. I know we've got a few that have joined us today that are going to be with us, so we look forward to our discussion. As far as TSSAA organizational structure, just a little background, a little overview of the organization and a little bit of history. I think it's important to understand as a member school exactly where we originated, why we are here. We were created in 1925 at a statewide conference of school principals and superintendents who desired to have a uniform set of eligibility criteria and also standards for officials. Out of that meeting, the organization was formed, and here in a couple of years we'll be celebrating our 100th year anniversary. It was founded on the principle that athletics and team competition are a vital part of the educational experience of student athletes. I think all of you who are here on this meeting would agree with that. It's probably one of your foundational principles that govern your professional life. If you didn't value kids and didn't feel like that athletics were an important piece of the educational experience, you probably wouldn't be here with us today. But the organization itself is comprised of, at this time, 473 member high schools, 493 member middle schools. We are very unique in Tennessee with the fact that we have so many member middle schools that are under our umbrella. Most state athletic associations do not have the middle schools underneath their umbrella, and then even those that do, there are very few that offer state championships. Those have been, we instituted those here within the last several years, and we're up to 20 total middle school championships with the addition of girls volleyball this year. 98 total high school championships. And so how that breaks down, when we're talking about that, we don't have 98 different sports, but when you look at all the different classes in each sport, that equates to 98 total high school championships. that the organization puts on. About 130,000 registered student athletes is how many we had in our eligibility system on an average year in the last couple of years. We have an annual operating budget of about $4 million. Now, I will say this, if you want to get a little more in the weeds about the operations of the organization, on our website, TSSAA.org, there is a tab that says about TSSAA, and you will find information that we'll talk about here in just a minute with governance, with the financial arrangement or organization or structure of the association. So certainly we're just going to hit the high points. We'll also hit the high points of some of the financial numbers and facts and figures when we go on the road for administrators meetings. If you haven't already, if y'all would mute your.
Not my fault.
The annual operating budget of TSSAA is about $4 million. We have 16 full-time staff members, 2 part-time positions. About 60% of our support comes from gate receipts of postseason tournaments. When you look around the country, you see how different associations operate. They do things a lot of different ways. TSSAA has relied on postseason tournament revenue for a lot of its operating budget, whereas you'll find in some states they rely heavily on membership dues. We have some states in the Southeast, one state in the Southeast, membership dues are around $3,000 a year, but they don't take in as much postseason tournament revenue. So a lot of different ways to do business. This has been the model of TSSAA for a number of years. About 30% of our annual support is spent on insurance coverage for student athletes, and we'll talk a little bit more about catastrophic insurance tomorrow. But the catastrophic insurance that is carried on the student athletes costs us in the neighborhood of $900,000 a year. When you look at all the insurance costs, liability coverage, the catastrophic insurance on each student athlete, so that's a significant part of our operating budget there. How does it work? And this is something that I think is incredibly important to really understand how the organization is governed. And again, this is, you can go into a little bit deeper dive on that About TSSAA tab on the TSSAA.org website. The board, we have 2 governing bodies, essentially. We have the Board of Control, which governs classification, the disciplinary action of schools and how the postseason tournaments operate, hardship appeals. Those are some of the primary areas that the Board of Control controls. They meet 5 times a year, and the Board of Control is comprised of 12 individuals with 1 representative from each of the 9 athletic districts in the state. Now, some of you, when you hear the term district, may think of the district for classification. You think I'm in District 9 AAA. It's not the same thing. The state is divided into what we refer to as athletic districts, which are very similar to what you would think of as legislative districts for the state of Tennessee. And there's 1 representative. It has to be a school administrator or an athletic director who carries a national certification through the TIAAA. Those are the individuals who are eligible for those terms. There's also 1 independent school representative from each of the 3 grand divisions. When we take those 9 athletic districts, you take the easternmost 3 athletic districts, and that's the East Grand Division. The middle 3 is the Middle Grand Division. The West 3 are the West Grand Division. 1 independent school representative from each of those grand divisions. And those individuals are elected at our regional meetings. Regional meetings are meetings that take place the first week of November. We have 3 regional meetings across the state, and that's where the election of the Board of Control members takes place. The Legislative Council is the other governing body. Again, those individuals are elected at those regional meetings as well. The Legislative Council governs TSSAA bylaws, our sports calendar eligibility, anything that you find in the TSSAA handbook, which if you're a brand new athletic director, you will receive one of those, a printed hard copy in the membership packets that we submit to schools. But you'll also find that document online, which is probably where most of you will access that. But anything that is written in that book pertains to the Legislative Council. Any school, it's important to know this, any school has the opportunity to propose a change to the bylaws. So here in just a few minutes, Lauren Jones will be discussing eligibility standards, hit some of those high points. And so if you as a school felt like that there should be a different eligibility rule, you have the opportunity to propose a change. Every school has that opportunity. If you feel like there should be a change in sports calendar, anything written in that book, you have the opportunity to propose a change to that Legislative Council. So we encourage you, take a look if you're not familiar with who your Board of Control or Legislative Council representative is. We encourage you, take a look at that About TSSAA site. Take a little bit deeper dive in the Board of Control section or Legislative Council section. You will see who your representative is. And beside each representative, or listed beside each representative or underneath, would be a list of all the schools that those individuals serve. So if you're not sure, you'll be able to find that on that list. At this time, I'm going to introduce Mr. Joe Blair. Joe is finishing up his first year as an assistant executive director, former athletic director at Brentwood High School. Joe's going to talk this time about TSSAA communications and the role of the athletic director.
Thank you, Mark, and hello to everyone. I'm going to go through just a few things here to hopefully help you navigate our website a little bit, where you can find some things that related to what you'll be doing a lot of, which is eligibility, scheduling, working with the portal, things like that, as well as some things involving Safe Stars and sports medicine, which is also a part of kind of your obligations or areas that you would oversee as athletic director. So how we at TSSAA sort of view the role of the athletic director on our end. We know that we all know that many sports programs going on in a school. There are some schools that have at or over 500 plus athletes in the school building in some cases, for larger schools, but even in smaller schools, it's a lot to keep up with anyway. So principals have athletic directors to sort of help oversee the actual athletic department and running of that. We know that in certain schools, that role looks different than other schools. In some schools, the athletic director is an administrator, has a little bit more of an overall leadership role of the school. In some schools, the athletic director is a teacher and a coach, and they are kind of managing, making sure all the boxes are checked as far as everything needed to be done with the athletic department, which we know can be a good bit. So we recognize that, we understand that, and we want you to know, first and foremost, we're here to work for you and with you. We want to make sure that you are comfortable in contacting us anytime you have a question, you need explanation about something, feel free to reach out. If the person that you get a hold of doesn't have an answer, we will we'll talk amongst ourselves and we'll get an answer for you. But that's really what we're here for, is to serve the member schools. One thing I want to point out, if you haven't done so already, this link right here takes you to the TSSAA website, and your home base for as an athletic director will be this tab, Athletic Administrators. You click on the Athletic Administrator page, you're going to find a lot of information that you can find useful throughout the year. Access to the TSSAA portal is there, which Bradley Lambert's going to talk more about that tomorrow, I believe, gives you more of an oversight of that. All of our health and safety policies can be located on this website. Anything involving postseason, education for your coaches, general information, and sports administration if you're hosting home events or anything like that. All that is here at your disposal. So let this be kind of your home base as an athletic director. Anytime something comes up. Big role for you as an athletic director who deals with compliance. And by compliance, basically, we're checking the boxes to make sure that you have done your due diligence in regards to making sure your coaches are covered. You've gotten your eligibility taken care of. You've gotten schedules put in. So you're doing everything you need to do to basically avoid any type of fine or sanctioning by the state office based on what the bylaws state. So one thing with compliance that you will find very helpful, and it goes back to that athletic administrator page, is a TSSAA compliance checklist. This is a PowerPoint that we've put together, and it basically gives you a month-by-month overview of the basically compliance issues, what you should be working on each month as you are going through athletic director. What should I do in this month if I'm in June or July? What should I be taking care of? Checking off all the boxes. So it would be a good idea each year, pull up that compliance checklist, look it over, see where you are, make sure you're going through all the different things for that particular month to watch out for, and you're taking care of everything that you need to do as far as the portal goes on TSSAA. Speaking of the portal, and one thing since we're starting out a new year that you want to go ahead and be working on is making sure you have your entire coaching staff listed on the portal. Not just head coaches, not just maybe head coach and one assistant, but you have any coach, all coaches that work with your teams, whether they are faculty, non-faculty, paid, unpaid, whatever, however your school system has that set up. If they are a coach that is working in any capacity with your team, you need to have them listed on the TSSAA portal. And you also need to make sure that they have completed their requirements as a coach, whether they're faculty or non-faculty. Very important, because one of the things we do with that list is if you qualify for a state championship event and you receive a team packet, part of that team packet is going to include passes for all of your coaching staff for that event. We base the number of passes that you get on the number of coaches that you have listed on your roster. So very important that you include everyone that's working with your teams. Your athletic trainer, if you are fortunate to have an athletic trainer on your coaching staff or on your school staff, list the athletic trainer as well on the portal. That way we have a way of communicating with them. Sometimes we have materials that are specific for athletic trainers. It'd be good to get that information in their hand. So we ask that even if you're contracting with a local medical group in your area, you still list that athletic trainer on the portal. Your school administrators, all principals, assistant principals on the administrative staff for your school. And then we get into season by season things that need to be entered into through the portal. And however you have this set up, whether you do this as the athletic director or you place this responsibility on your head coaches, it's up to you how you determine that. But each season we require teams to submit their schedule through the portal. Eligibility rosters, that everyone that's listed has met all eligibility criteria as stated in the bylaw. Any rules meetings that your coaches attend, the attendance for those rules meetings are recorded in the portal. Administrator and regional meetings that Mr. Reeves talked about a second ago for athletic directors, attendance to those meetings are also registered through the portal. And accounting, any type of bookkeeping that takes place through TSSAA, fees or fines or things like that, those will show up through the portal as well. So it'll be important to have your bookkeeper at your school have access to the portal so the way they can view what those accounting fees are. Big question with athletic directors is, what do you do if you have a new coach? And what are the steps that I make sure I do so that I make sure that coach is set up properly on your end and on our end? First thing you want to do, and this goes, a lot of times this will be taken care of before that coach is even allowed to get involved, is have they passed a background check with your LEA, with your local school district? and they've been cleared by your school district. That's the first and foremost. Before they start working with kids, make sure that they have been background checked and they've cleared that background check. If they are a non-faculty coach, non-faculty coaches, first-time non-faculty coaches have a one-time obligation based on the bylaws that they must fulfill before they begin working with the sports team. And that's the important part, is when they complete those requirements and when they start working with athletes. So non-faculty coaches, they have 2 courses on NFHS Learn that they must complete one time: Fundamentals of Coaching, that includes the Tennessee component, and First Aid, Health, and Safety. If they are coming from another school and they're still a non-faculty coach, but they've completed those courses at their prior school, they are good to go. And if you're not 100% sure if they've done that or not, get in contact with us. We can check for you, or you can actually look them up in the NFHS Learn Network to see if they've completed their required coursework as a non-faculty coach. All coaches every year have some annual requirements, annual courses that must be taken care of, either through the NFHS Learn Network or through your local provider as far as CPR and AED training. Every year, every coach must complete the concussion in sports, sudden cardiac arrest, and heat illness prevention courses through the NFHS Learn. That's every year, each coach. Also, as a part of the Safe Stars initiative, CPR and AED training. And we'll talk a little bit more on Safe Stars here in a second, what the difference is between training and versus certification. But that is also something that coaches must complete annually. NFHS Learn is producing a CPR and AED training course for this school year. Hopefully we will get the word within the next week or so that that course is ready. We are not 100% sure yet if that course is going to come with a fee or not. We're hoping it's going to be a free course, but it might have a minimal $10 fee attached to it. We're not certain about that yet, but we'll let you know once we get that taken care of. And when it comes to non-faculty coaches, this is important. It's recommended you do not add a non-faculty coach to the portal until they have completed their required coursework, but you want them to complete that required coursework prior to them working with the athletic team that they're wanting to coach. That will help avoid any type of penalty or fine based on what the bylaws state. Speaking of those, so this is the section that talks about in the TSSLA bylaws, coaching requirements for all coaches, but specifically non-faculty coaches, and mainly the penalty that could be imposed. This is a finable offense if these requirements are not met, and explain why it is a finable offense here in a moment. But this is in TSSLA bylaws, Article 1, Section 9. I'm not going to read all of this through to you, but it talks about the different requirements for all coaches and non-faculty coaches specifically. One thing I want to point out is the penalty for using a non-faculty coach who has not met the requirements listed above. This is a finable offense, $500 per coach. Use of a non-faculty coach or classified employee who has met the requirements listed above but has not been submitted to the state office prior to the date of first contest, allowed by the sports calendar, shall result in a fine of $50. So these requirements for non-faculty and classified employees apply. Make sure that they've taken care of those so you avoid a fine or penalty. Question comes up is, that's pretty steep. Why is that penalty in place? And one of the main answers is this basically ties directly to the catastrophic insurance coverage. Our catastrophic insurance provider, Loomis & LaPlante, has stated that one of the things that keeps you covered under the catastrophic insurance is that you have provided all of your coaches with proper training, and they have all been certified and cleared by the school and the state office. If you have coaches that are working with your teams that have not met all the requirements, then that nullifies the TSSLA catastrophic insurance policy for your coaches and your athletes. So this is a big deal. If you have coaches working with your teams and they have not completed all their requirements, Catastrophic insurance coverage is not going to apply if there is an injury that results while that coach is in supervision of athletes. So very important that requirement gets taken care of, and that you as the athletic director stays on top of your coaching requirements. Big thing also that kind of goes along with compliance is the Safe Stars program. This is, I guess, the second year that we have been implementing the Safe Stars program by state law. The program actually began prior to Tennessee state law being passed, the Safe Stars Act. The Safe Stars Initiative was sort of created in the first place, and the law was kind of developed around that. But the main purpose of the Safe Stars Initiative is it provides schools and communities a platform, a game plan to create safe sporting environments across the board. Dr. Alex Diamond with Vanderbilt Sports Medicine was one of the key people involved in helping to develop this program, along with the Tennessee Department of Education, Tennessee Department of Health. And we have worked with them. They have taken a lot of what our current requirements were and worked it into that Safe Stars initiative, specifically the bronze level. So Tennessee state law, Tennessee State Safe Stars Act requires that public and now private schools as well meet bronze level compliance based on the Safe Stars initiative. There's a link in this presentation that will take you to the Safe Stars initiative website through the Tennessee Department of Health. And on that website, you will find all the requirements for bronze, silver, and gold levels that must be completed. And those requirements are and how to go about being recognized by the Tennessee Department of Health as a Safe Stars school. A couple of updates to the Safe Stars Act for this coming school year. Probably the big one, and one that we are, I think, happy to see included in the updates, is team rehearsal for emergency action plans. You take the time out, each team takes the time out each season to rehearse what would happen if you were in practice and an athlete or a coach falls out with sudden cardiac arrest. And you take time to go through that. And we are working on creating and providing some materials and some examples of what that looks like, so that you can kind of start incorporating those into your programs. Greg Wyant, athletic director at Siegel High School, does a great job with this, with their athletic teams, in rehearsing at least once per season the emergency action plan being implemented for that sports team in that facility. So that's a new addition. Be thinking about that, talking with your coaches about what that will look like as well. Bronze level is required for private schools. Last year, the law had it as a recommendation, and we found that just about all private schools were doing that anyway, because they want to create safe environments for their teams and programs. But that is now, the law has been changed and requiring that now. Another thing also, if you have community leagues with athletes age 14 and younger that use your school facilities, you need to be talking with those community leagues, whether it's Little League or AAU or whatever the group is, that they know about this, because Safe Stars Act is also moving to covering community sports leagues as well. That's really, if you look at the history of it, that's pretty much what it was designed for in the first place. So they need to make sure that they have at least met bronze level if they're using your facilities. And a good practice for you also is, if you have these groups, outside groups using your facilities, is making sure that they have a copy of your emergency action plan for that particular sports facility that they are using, and they know where everything's located, where's the closest AED and whatnot, closest access for emergency medical services and things like that. New thing that we've been working on this year, and it's a new implementation for varsity home high school football games. This is something that has come about since the Damar Hamlin incident last football season, Monday Night Football. Dr. David Long, who is a football official at TSSAA and was a member of our Sports Medicine Advisory Committee, has worked with us on developing a pregame emergency action plan meeting that will take place immediately following the game administrators meeting for varsity high school football games. We've begun talking to football supervisors last week about this meeting and what it looks like, the framework looks like, and we've sent out an email to principals and athletic directors. You should have received something from us with kind of guidelines and agendas of what that looks like. This meeting is basically just a quick 5-minute, everybody from both teams get together, trainers or medical professionals that are going to be on the sidelines. If you have a coach represented as well, your SROs, your security, football officials, everyone just get together real quick, go over a brief overview of the emergency action plan for that football field for that night. Here's where the AED is located. Here's how we're getting access to an ambulance on the field and whatnot. On the athletic administrator's webpage, under sports administration, you are going to find a copy of this agenda for this pregame EAP meeting. And this is something that was emailed out to principals and athletic directors a few weeks ago. But this is posted on the sports information section, sports administration section on the athletic administrator page on our website. So it just gives you a quick rundown of what takes place during this meeting and what all needs to be involved there. As well, going along with this, we have created an emergency action plan template that you can fill out, download it. You can fill it out and make it sports specific for your particular school facility from our website. On the athletic administrator webpage under health and safety policies, you'll find the downloadable version for this emergency preparedness template. And it's something that you can fill out for not just football games, but any event that you're hosting. If you want to send it out to the visiting teams prior to their arriving to the event, that way they kind of have an outline of here's what we have available, here's what we don't have available at our particular facility. Here's the closest medical facility to our school, and just basic information that you would need to know in an emergency situation for that particular sports facility. And this is good. This is quite a bit. It's one of the questions that popped up earlier is will this presentation be available after the meeting? And if we are recording this, we will be able to send you this, and it will be posted to our website after we conclude these 2 days of the webinar. That was a lot, but appreciate you taking the time to look at that. It's a good question. So for this year, the emergency action plan meeting is only going to be for varsity high school football games. So we're not going to do it for JV and freshman games. Mainly what we thought was, well, the varsity games are the only ones that require a game administrator meeting. JV and freshman football games do not require the game administrator meeting. So we are basically incorporating it to take place immediately following that game administrator meeting for varsity high school football games. More than welcome to incorporate that if you want at the JV and freshman level. It's good practice. And I think our hope is as this kind of develops and evolves and grows that we work more of this into all of our sporting events so that everyone has a good game plan moving forward anytime you're hosting an event and you feel more comfortable in case an emergency situation does come up, which we don't want that to happen, but you never know.
I think you may find with that what trainers articulating this may want to shift again.
Yep.
For the meetings, for the games.
All right, I am going to now turn it over to Ms. Lauren Jones in our office to talk about eligibility.
Hey everybody, I am Lauren Jones, and I'm going to be giving you sort of the high points of where to find our eligibility rules and some of the more common questions that we get asked every single year. So if you have your handbook handy, you can kind of follow along. We're going to take these in order that they come in the handbook and in the bylaws. If not, look back at it after we're done here. But all of the eligibility rules are in Article 2 of the bylaws, and the very first thing that I wanted to bring y'all's attention to is the preamble. It's easy to skip over, but it gives some really important information about which eligibility rules apply at both the junior varsity level, and then of course at the varsity level, everything applies. But at the junior varsity level, if you have a student who doesn't meet these rules listed here, enrollment, the academic rules, high school graduate, the semester rules, repeating rule, 8th grade participation and grade participation, age limit, physical examination, and parental consent, under disciplinary action, coaching link, and the homeschool rule and the virtual school rule, they cannot participate in any contests at the varsity or the junior varsity level. Those are the only rules that will prevent someone from participating at the junior varsity level. So everything else is just varsity. Any student who is enrolled in regular attendance at your school can participate in practice even if they are ineligible. They can always participate in practice at your school if they're enrolled. So I just wanted to bring your attention to that. Don't skip over it because we get that a lot. The student's academically ineligible, can they still play in JV? Unfortunately, the answer is no. That rule would prevent them from participating at all levels. As I go through this, I think we have some middle school athletic directors on this call and some high school athletic directors as well. So anywhere in the bylaws where there's a difference in the rule, I'm going to be kind of drawing your attention to that. So academics is the first one of those. And again, this is a rule that affects JV and varsity participation. And the high school rule says that to be eligible to participate in athletic contests during any school year, the student must earn 5 credits the preceding school year if less than 24 credits are required for graduation, or 6 credits the preceding school year if 24 or more credits are required for graduation. All credits have to be earned by the first day of the beginning of the school year. So if you have a student who does summer school, those credits can count as long as they are earned prior to school starting. Academic eligibility is based on the requirements of the school where the student completed last school year. So if you have a transfer student coming in, their academic eligibility is based on their previous school's requirements. You're going to need to find out how many credits that school required for graduation and how many credits the student earned to determine if they meet that requirement. For your incoming 8th and 9th graders, they simply have to be academically promoted to the next higher grade, so you don't have to worry about credits for those kids. The middle school rule is much simpler. It simply states that to be eligible to participate in athletic contests, the student must have been academically promoted to the next higher grade. And so any student repeating a grade is ineligible to participate. Every year we get the question that a student, started the school year academically ineligible and they've worked really hard. Do they have an opportunity to become eligible later in the school year? That answer is yes. Students who are ineligible the first semester can gain eligibility the second semester by earning a passing grade in 5 classes or 3 blocks or the equivalent. We've sort of simplified that rule for any of you who have been around for more than a couple of years. We've taken out the credit requirement because we found that many schools are not awarding any credits until the end of the school year. So it's just a passing grade in 5 classes is what they'll need to become eligible the second semester. If you have a student who becomes eligible the second semester, they cannot participate until classes resume in the second semester on or after January 1. So that means they can't participate in any contests, any tournaments, any classics over the Christmas break. They have to wait till school starts back. The other side of this is, can a student lose academic eligibility during the school year? That answer is no. If a student is academically eligible at the beginning of the school year, they will remain eligible the entire school year, regardless of how she may perform. TLSA rules are minimum requirements, so your school or school system may have a rule in place that requires, certain standards in order to continue to participate. By TSSAA rules, however, if a student starts the school year eligible, they'll remain eligible the whole year. Article 2, Section 6 gets into, for the middle schools, it's the semester rule, and for the high schools, it's the 8th semester rule. Both of these rules also impact eligibility at both the junior varsity and the varsity level. So the middle school rule gives a student 6 total semesters to complete 4 semesters of eligibility after entering the 7th grade. So a student can enter the 7th grade and play that year. That would be 2 semesters. They could repeat the 7th grade. They're going to be ineligible the year they're repeating, but those 2 semesters would count as part of the 6. And then they would be eligible their 8th grade year for their last 2. So they'd be participating for 4 semesters within that 6 total. The high school rule is a little bit different. High schoolers can participate the year they are repeating. So for the high school 8-semester rule, it's just a running clock. Once you start 9th grade for the first time, if you stay enrolled in school for 8 semesters, that's your total amount of eligibility that you have. It says a student once enrolled in the 9th grade has 8 semesters of athletic eligibility, and attendance of 40 school days of any semester shall be regarded as a semester regardless of athletic participation. So it does not matter if you participate in any athletics during one of those semesters. If you're enrolled in school for 40 days or more, it still counts as one of your 8. If a student participates in athletics during a period of attendance of any number of days less than 40, it still is going to count as a semester of attendance. So say you're only enrolled in school for 20 days, but you're playing football those 20 days, that is going to count as a semester. The only way a semester would not count against a student once they've entered the 9th grade is if they're either not enrolled in school at all, or if they're enrolled in school for less than 40 days and they don't participate in any athletics during that time period. And then the final bit of this is that the 7th and 8th semesters do have to be consecutive. So what this would look like is if you have a freshman come in and then they repeat their freshman year, then they'd have their sophomore year and their junior year. By the time they got to their senior year, they would be a 5th-year senior and they would be out of eligibility because that would be their 9th and 10th semesters in school, and they only get 8. Article 2, Section 7 is where you'll find the repeating rules. And again, these are JV and varsity participation that it impacts. The middle school repeating rule just states that any student who repeats 6th, 7th, or 8th grade shall not be eligible until they have reached the next higher grade. Middle schoolers cannot play while they are repeating. We have been asked, so when am I in a grade? And a student is considered to be in a grade after attending classes in that grade for 3 or more days. So if you enter the 7th grade and you're in class for a week, that's your first 7th grade year. The TSSAA, the high school repeating rule, is a little bit different. So high schoolers, like we said, can participate the year they're repeating in high school. What the high school repeating rule does is it states that a student who repeats the 6th, 7th, or 8th grade year and plays in an interscholastic contest while repeating will be ineligible in all sports at all levels in the 9th grade. So we're actually looking at their middle school participation, and if they got an extra year of participation in middle school, they're going to be ineligible in the 9th grade. And the reason this is in here is our member middle schools, schools that are members of TMSAA, cannot have their students participating while they repeat. All of any non-member school, a school who's in, not in the TSSAA or TMSAA, they can let their students have that extra year participation in middle school. And this rule simply makes them sit out in the 9th grade if they do that. If they play an extra year in middle school, they'll sit their 9th grade year instead. So nobody gets an additional year of participation. Article 2, Section 9 gives the age rules for both middle school and high school. Middle school, no student can compete if they are 15 on or before August 1st. And the high school rule is that no student can compete if they turn 19 on or before August 1st. And again, this is participation in contests at any level, varsity or JV. These students, if you have a child who is too old to participate in contests, they can still participate in practice and be a part of the team in that way, as long as they are enrolled and in regular attendance at your school. All right, the next section is definitions. And this is sort of if you get nothing else out of the eligibility section, get this. We have a definition section in our handbook. It's on pages 7 and 8 at the very beginning of the handbook before the bylaws ever even start. And I'm going to be talking about eligibility definitions. I'm pointing out just a couple of the high points, but there are definitions in that section for all of our rules, and they're really important to read in order to get the correct interpretation. If you don't read the definitions, there's a good chance that you may miss a rule or misinterpret a rule. So for eligibility, I'm just going to start with a couple that we get questioned about a lot. Parent and guardian. That seems pretty straightforward. Parent really is. It's the, the birth mother, biological father, an adopted parent, or a step parent with whom the student regularly resides. Guardian is where we have more questions. For TSSAA rules, a guardian is any adult other than a parent who the student has lived with for 12 or more consecutive months. We do not require appointment by a court, any sort of custody paperwork, power of attorney, anything like that to establish guardianship. But nobody can be considered a guardian under our rules unless the student has lived with them for 12 months, regardless of if they have any of that court paperwork. So where you're going to see these are in the transfer rules, parent-to-parent transfers, guardian-to-parent transfers. The residence rule requires that any student changing schools has to live with either a parent or guardian. And so anytime you see those rules, these are the definitions we're looking for. This is the guardian that has to be the case in order for them to meet those rules. A couple more definitions. Athletic record. There's a myth out there that junior varsity participation does not count against you if you're a transfer student, that it won't make you ineligible. That is not correct. Our definition for an athletic record is that a student has an athletic record if they have played in an interscholastic contest at the varsity, junior varsity, 9th grade, or any other level on behalf of a TSSAA member school or a school that is a member of a state athletic association holding membership in the national federation. So if you have played in a contest, a school contest at any level in a sport within the last 12 months, you have an athletic record. We get a few questions about what that's talking about, state athletic association holding membership in the national federation, and that would be a transfer student coming in from Alabama. Their high school in Alabama is a member of the Alabama Association. So it's the equivalent of TSSAA. We do count those out-of-state transfers as having an athletic record. Territory is the other definition that you do definitely need to take a look at and get a good understanding of. You'll see in our transfer rules, we talk about territory quite a bit when we're referencing changes of residence and if the change of residence is going to justify the transfer. So for a public school, the territory is the geographic boundaries and bus routes of the area served by that school as established by the local Board of Education. That's sort of a long way of saying the zone lines and bus routes. And bus routes are included because we have so many schools now that are open zoned, open enrollment. They don't have set zone lines like we used to. If you walk out your front door to catch the school bus, what local school is it going to take you to? And that's what we use as the territory for a public school. For a system-wide public school, these are your charter schools, your magnet schools, or for a homeschool student who is participating at a public school, the territory is the geographic boundaries of the school system. So if you're attending a magnet school in Sumner County, your territory is going to be the entirety of Sumner County schools, the whole county. That's the territory. For non-public or private schools or homeschool student participating at a non-public school, the territory is an area within 20-mile radius of the school. So we literally take the private school, we run 20 miles straight out in all directions, and that makes a large circle around the school. And then that is what the territory is for that private school. Some people think that for the transfers, it's, we measure 20 miles between school A and school B, but we're really just looking at each private school, 20 miles out in all directions is that school's territory. When we are starting to look at transfer students, it's in Article 2, Sections 12 and 13. Section 12 will give you all of the eligible transfer student rules, all the different ways a transfer student could be eligible. Section 13 gives the rules that would make a transfer student ineligible. And I just bring this to your attention because a lot of times we look at Section 12 and they may meet one of the transfer rules of Section 12, and we don't continue on and look at Section 13 to see if there's anything that could make that child ineligible. And Section 12 says, except as otherwise provided in Section 13 below. So we have to read both. And if you get to the point where you've determined this child's going to be ineligible, ineligibility is if you have an athletic record in a sport, unless it's otherwise stated, that ineligibility is only going to apply to that sport in which the student has the athletic record. They would be ineligible at the varsity level only for 12 months from their last date of participation. They could still play JV if they meet all other requirements. Section 13 does have a couple of rules that make a student ineligible, and it specifies a different term of ineligibility. That's if a student's under discipline or if there's a coaching link. So that's why it's unless otherwise stated, but 99% of your transfer students, if they're only ineligible due to the transfer rule, they can still play JV. They'll be ineligible in the varsity level only for the sport where they have that athletic record. This is just an example, so we can kind of look at what that looks like with section 12 and 13 having to both be met. If you have a student lives with dad in school zone A, but chooses to attend a private school, and then they decide that it's time for her to go and live with her mom, and mom decides that she's going to now attend school zone A, where both parents have always lived. They have all the documentation required in section 12. It would be the first time the student has changed residence from one parent to the other since establishing an athletic record. They have the court-ordered custody paperwork showing that mom now has custody. They have a letter from the previous school saying that the transfer wasn't for athletic or disciplinary reasons. They've dotted all their I's, crossed all their T's, and they're looking at it, is she going to be eligible at school A? And the answer is no, she will not be eligible because the father already lived in school zone A. Section 13B says that a student who transfers as a result of a change of residence is ineligible unless the old residence is outside the territory of the new school. And in this case, the dad's residence is not outside the territory of school A. And then it goes on to say that the new residence is outside the territory of the old school and the new residence is inside the territory of the new school. So all three of those would need to be met in order for her to be eligible. This is not an exhaustive list, I will tell you that, but this is some of the most important things you would need to ask about your transfer students to get the information you need to submit them. First is, do they have an athletic record in any sports? And that again is participation in a contest at the varsity or junior varsity level. You'll need to find out their last participation date if they do have that athletic record. And that is the date of the last contest that they played in, again, at any level of competition, junior varsity or varsity. And then finally, the practice rule, which folks forget about sometimes, but you need to find out, especially if you have a student who transfers after the beginning of the school year, if they participated in 3 or more days of practice for any sports this school year. So a student who engages in 3 or more days of practice after the first official date of practice with a school in which the student is enrolled will be ineligible in that sport for that season if the student enrolls in another school without a corresponding change in the residence. So you could have theoretically an incoming freshman who starts the school year at school A, participates in football practice, for whatever reason decides to transfer to school B. They don't have an athletic record, but they will be ineligible this season in football if they practiced more than 3 days. Just a brief touch on the independent game participation rule. This is Article 2, Section 21. And the main thing we want to stress to you all here is to communicate to your families about the independent game rule. If you have an athlete that's competing on an independent team, which would be a club team, travel team, church league basketball, whatever it may be, after the first day of competition for that team sport, they should not be added to the eligibility roster until they have finished competing with the independent team. So that's where you really just need to tell your families, please tell us if your child is participating in independent teams and let us know when they're done. Let us know when they're ready to switch over to the school team, and don't add the student until after that point. Independent game participation only applies to team sports. It does not apply to individual sports, and it only affects varsity eligibility. So you can have a student participating in independent and participate at the junior varsity level on the school team, but they cannot do both and participate at the varsity level. And then finally, hardship applications. This comes into play if you have a student who's ineligible for any reason. Most of the time it's for transfer students, but it can be due to financial aid, it can be, academic rule, it can be any of the other rules as well. The hardship application basically is a request to waive the regular eligibility requirements. And it goes to our executive director. He'll review all the information that is submitted and then make a decision on if the hardship can be approved. So 2 rules that cannot be ruled on for hardship, cannot be granted. The bylaws specifically say we don't have the authority to rule on them, are the age rule and the 8 semester rule. So if you have a student who's ineligible due to age or 8 semesters, the hardship application is not an option. The bylaws don't give us permission to grant those. You can send them in if you need to. You'll get a very polite letter back saying that, sorry, we can't rule on this. Hardship applications also cannot be approved if the change in schools is due to athletic reasons. That is in the bylaws, that the transfer cannot be due to athletic reasons. To submit a hardship application, you're going to need to go to the TSSAA.org website. They're not on the portal. So you'll go to TSSAA.org to the athletic administrators area and then forms. And it is an old school paper form. You'll download it, print it off, type on it, write on it, however you want to do it. You can attach additional documentation, letters, anything you need, and then you'll just scan and email the form back to our office. It cannot be submitted through the portal. We do ask that if it's a transfer student that you submit the transfer form for the student through the portal before you submit the hardship application, so we can have all of that transfer information on the front end. I believe that is all I have. I know there's a lot of information and very just a brief look, so please let us know if you have questions. Again, I'm Lauren Jones. I do most of the high school stuff, so feel free to shoot me an email and I'll be happy to help you any way I can. And I think Mr. Reeves is coming back.
Thank you, Lauren. Lauren processes an awful lot of information. I believe, how many hardship, or not, how many transfers did we have last year? 3,500 between the middle school and the high school. So Emily on the middle school side and Lauren on the high school side, there's a lot of those that are processed, and they do an incredible job getting that back to our membership. Do want to talk just a minute about unsportsmanlike conduct, coaches, student athletes, and fans, something that in many cases, athletic director may be in a position where you are the person that's in attendance for a contest. Maybe it's someone, maybe it's another administrator or another designee, but if you have not been in this role before and you're not familiar with what some of the mandatory disciplinary action is that results from unsportsmanlike conduct, I thought I'd just take a minute to go over that. But then also there's been language that's been added just recently by the Legislative Council regarding unsportsmanlike conduct for fans. So first, there is a minimum mandatory disciplinary action for coaches. And again, this is part of the TSSAA bylaws, not a change. Coaches who are ejected for unsportsmanlike conduct, there's a $250 fine that's placed on the school, and the coach must sit out for a minimum of 2 contests for each level that they may coach. In the event that it's a football ejection, that's a 1-game mandatory suspension. All other sports, that's a 2-game suspension. Minimum mandatory disciplinary action for student athletes. There's no fine associated there when a student athlete is ejected from a contest for unsportsmanlike conduct. The penalty in terms of how many games they sit out is the same. It's 2 games for all contests except for football, which is 1. There is a couple of scenarios in soccer where it results in a 1-game suspension as opposed to 2. We communicate that with the school whenever the school receives its report. I do want to point out, though, the bylaws require that the school suspend the coach and/or student athlete in the event that they're ejected for unsportsmanlike conduct, whether or not you have received formal notification from TSSAA. In other words, if you are, for example, if you're in Gulf Shores, Alabama, over spring break playing in a baseball tournament with your baseball team, and the head coach is ejected, you may not hear from us the first day. It may take some time for us to get that report, and in most cases, state associations are pretty good in sharing that type of information back and forth, but you're still required to have the coach or student athlete sit out for the required number of contests, whether you hear from us before that next contest or not. There is an appeal process whenever there has been a misapplication of a play-in rule. We do have the opportunity to review those ejections, and if we have we can determine that there's been a misapplication of the rule, and the student athlete or the coach should not have been ejected because the rule was not applied correctly. We do have the opportunity to overturn that ejection. If find yourself in that situation where you feel like you've got a coach or a student athlete who's been ejected and it was misapplication of the rule, then we need to have that submitted in writing by the school administrator to our office stating which rule has been misapplied, along with video footage that would help support that, and we can take a look at that. There's a $50 charge for that appeal, but it is not credited to the portal account if that appeal is granted and the ejection is overturned. There's also mandatory disciplinary action for fans coming onto the floor. It doesn't happen a whole lot, but it does happen from time to time, particularly if there's an altercation or what people may think is turning into an altercation. You need to really emphasize to your fans, don't come on the floor. There's a minimum mandatory $250 fine when that takes place. But if you've got something that's disruptive enough for fans or to come onto the floor, athletes come off the bench, in many cases we're following up with you to get footage of that event. If it's something that is severe in nature, our standard when we've had fights on the floor, in many cases that can result in restricted probation, which eliminates the school from the postseason and carries with it a $1,000 fine. So it's a really big deal for you to educate your parents, your kids, etc. Stay in the stands, stay on the benches. If there's an altercation or something on the field, it's very, very important to show some restraint there. Now there's been new language. Our schools, I'm going to give you a little bit of background. We've had a number of schools who have reached out, particularly over the last couple of years, as we've had more and more situations involving fan behavior where our schools were wanting some type of standardized minimum disciplinary action in the event that you had fans that were ejected from a contest. And the first proposal that was submitted by Athletic Director Chris Pointer from Murray County School System Athletic Director, but I think Chris was speaking on behalf of a number of school administrators that we have heard from. The proposal that was submitted initially to the Legislative Council was looked at, and it included mandatory disciplinary action or for the actual fans themselves. Our legal counsel determined and our legislative council determined it wasn't going to be in the best interest of us to place punitive action on fans when the fans are not actually members of the association. Rather, that disciplinary action needs to go to the school. So the legislative council looked at a penalty that would mirror the mandatory disciplinary action for fans coming onto the floor. In other words, the minimum penalty for fan ejections now, if you have an official who has ejected a fan for unsportsmanlike conduct during a contest, the school will be fined a minimum of $250. In addition, just like fans coming on the floor, any non-monetary disciplinary action may occur, including but not limited to probation and restricted probation for the entire athletic program. So if you have something really bad, just like with fans coming on the floor, it could be worse. Now, one of the points of emphasis that we've already started communicating to our supervisors of officials is we don't want our officials engaging fans. We want them to lean on our school people first to correct an issue that may be happening. Obviously, if it's something really, really bad, if Mark Reeves is sitting in the stand and looks at the official and says, "Hey, I'm going to meet you in the parking lot. You just get ready." Mark Reeves needs to be ejected from that contest, and that official may look at the game administrator and say Mark Reeves has to go, in which case that would result in that minimum of $250 fine. But if Mark's being a little mouthy in the stands, what we're asking our officials to do is go get that game administrator and say, "Hey, we've got somebody in the stands that's causing an issue." And as an administrator, we want those individuals to take care of the problem. If they make the decision to remove, I'm talking about the administrator, if the administrator makes the decision to remove the fan from the contest, we should never receive a report from an official. That would not result in this minimum penalty. But if it's something that's egregious enough where the officials have to say that so-and-so has to leave, that's the new minimum penalty for fan ejection. So that is the standardized minimum penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct for fans ejected from a contest. Change gears just a little bit. The Article 2, Section 17 is the portion of the bylaws that deals with the recruiting guidelines. It's pretty extensive. It's almost 2 pages worth of things to consider with regards to recruiting and what's permissible and what's not. But it's not an exhaustive list. If we had an exhaustive document that explained everything that could be construed as recruiting or not recruiting, et cetera, that would be a pretty thick book. But some general guiding principles that you'll find in Article 2, Section 13. Is it 17 or 13? Get my numbers mixed up. 17. Yes, Article 2, Section 17. There is a series of questions and answers. And one of those questions and answers centers around social media. So I'll just read to you. How is influence for athletic purposes interpreted in the recruiting rule? Examples may include, but are not limited to. One of those answers is any social media post that encourages prospective student athletes to consider attending the school. Now, we know in this day and time, and it's only going to increase exponentially, our schools are doing a great job celebrating and communicating through the avenue of social media, and that should certainly be the case. You need to celebrate the accomplishments that you have within your athletic department, your educational programs. But what we would encourage you to do is make sure that you are not forming those posts in a way in which they would be considered a call to action. In other words, if you're talking about the state championship that you just won, that's great. If you have pictures of all that, that's great. But what it shouldn't include is something that says, come be a part of this, come to Springfield High School. I'll just pick on them because that's where I went to high school. So make sure that this does not include calls to action whenever you are celebrating and using social media as a communication platform. That can get you into the weeds with the recruiting rule. Not uncommon at all for schools to contact us to get a little bit of guidance of whether or not a social media post that they're considering putting out there is appropriate or not. I think if you call us a couple times and we talk through it, then you'll get a feel for what's permissible and what's not. But again, don't hesitate to celebrate, don't hesitate to communicate, but it shouldn't include a call to action. All right, I'm going to pass it on to Mr. Matthew Gillespie, our Assistant Director that's in charge of media regulations. And Matthew's got some information about the NFHS network and other media regulations.
Thank you, Mark. Good to be with you this afternoon. As Mark said, I'm going to speak to you about our media regulations and specifically the NFHS network. The network is something, an organization of numerous state associations, almost all of them now, that we joined over 10 years ago. So we've been with the network. We were one of the first state associations to become part of it, to where it gives member schools the opportunity to showcase their student athletes by streaming their events through this platform. So the network, it is subscription based for the fans. I'll talk to you a little more about details about how schools can benefit financially, and then also how it's constructed with our media regulations. But for what I'm going to speak to you about specifically, as you see here, is about how these regulations apply in the postseason. So everything I'll talk to you about with the network is in regards to postseason. What you do and what you allow during the regular season in regards to video streaming is strictly up to you as a host school. So if you want to allow ESPN to come in and put your game on Saturday, move your game to Saturday, and they're going to pay you X amount of money and put you on at noon on a Saturday, and they're going to, pay you whatever, that's up to you. We have no restrictions, no fees, nothing. We're not involved. These regulations do not apply to the regular season, only the postseason. So keep that in mind going forward. As it states there in that first first paragraph under postseason, basically our agreement with the network has the exclusive broadcast rights for any postseason event. So they are the exclusive broadcast right holder of that. Any school that's a member of the NFHS school broadcast program has the right to broadcast both live and on demand of any state playoff event, any postseason event on the network. So we've got probably well over 50% of our member schools are members of the NFHS network. So odds are, more likely than not, there's a good chance a postseason event you're involved in, where you could be the visiting team, you could have a school coming to you. That school that you're playing against could be on the network, and you may be as well. Both schools could be as well. And we'll get into what those restrictions are and the fees here in a little bit. If an event is selected by a school broadcast program school or the network, no one else is permitted to stream or broadcast that event, because it goes back to the network has the exclusive broadcast rights for postseason events. So if school A is playing school B, school A is at home, they've got a Pixelot camera, or they are streaming it through the network, they've got exclusive broadcast rights. School B says, well, we want to stream it too. We've done our games on YouTube all year long. School A is the only one permitted to stream that event because they're part of the network and they have the exclusive broadcast rights. Schools must make best efforts to provide broadcasting space for a visiting school broadcast program school. Most cases now with these Pixelot cameras, and I'll give you a few more details about that in a little bit, most of the time, if a school's broadcasting on the network, they're doing it if they're the host school. The Pixelot cameras are mounted cameras. 9 times out of 10, you're going to see them only at football stadiums and in basketball gyms. We're starting to see them at some baseball and softball fields, but 9 times out of 10, it's your basketball gym, football field where those cameras are mounted. Some schools can and do it remotely and take their, I guess, quote unquote, take the show on the road and could stream remotely if they have the equipment to do so. But more often than not, what you're going to deal with is the host school being that situation. If you are a host school and you know that someone is traveling to you and says, hey, we're part of the network, we're going to stream this event, you are required to permit them to do so. And the final reminder there, and this is one of the biggest benefits, I think, to being part of the network, and you'll see with the fee structure, and the fees have been in place even before we became part of the network, but one of the benefits, if you are part of the network, you're not subject to the broadcast fees that are applied. So if neither school is playing, I'll give you a couple scenarios in a minute, neither school in a game that's taking place is part of the network and one of them wants to stream, they can do so because 1, there is no network broadcast, but 2, a broadcast fee will apply, and it depends on the sport, depends on the round. But if you're part of the network, those are waived, and that's one of the benefits to being part, to where you're not subject to those fees. So again, any media entity or school wishing to stream or tape delay a broadcast and it's not being carried by the network, you must, 1, get approval from the host school. And this would also include, and I know this is kind of hard, we deal with this a lot more now than we used to, but a lot of times you're going to have parents, and it's so easy today. Someone's setting up just a camera, attaching it to a fence at a softball game, something like that. They're putting it on Facebook, they're putting it on YouTube. If you're aware of it, we need you to try to communicate with them that, hey, there's a fee involved with this, or 2, we don't need to be doing this. And especially if the other school's on the network, they don't need to be doing it. And sometimes you're not aware of it, and we understand that. We'll be made aware, hey, school A was streaming this on YouTube the other night. We'll contact you, and we'll see if you're aware and what we need to do going forward with that. But just kind of, keep your eyes and ears out for those situations. Here's the fee structure. Football, obviously, probably the biggest one, the one that we see most requests for. Again, this is if no school is part of the network and a stream is permitted, $750 per game. Now that becomes part of your gate receipts. So any of these situations, it's like $750 in tickets sold. So you're putting that into the gate receipts. There'll be a line item on the post-game financial report form, and that basically, in essence, gets split up just like $750 in tickets sold. Tape delay, we don't see those requests quite as often as much these days. $250 for football. Sectional basketball game, that's the round before the state tournament, $500 per game. That'd be $500 for girls and $500 for boys if they were playing back to back. Sectional games or tournaments in any other sport, if they get to that level right before the state in any other sports, $300. And the most common one outside of football, district or region tournaments for any sport other than football, $100 for a tape delay, $250 for a live telecast. So that kind of gives you an idea of what the fee structure is. And again, those fees apply only if neither school or the game is not being carried by the NFHS network. Like I mentioned earlier, over 50% of our schools are members of the network. Last year alone, or 2 years ago actually, we had over 10,000 high school events in Tennessee streamed on the network. That doubled from the previous year. And those numbers we expect to see rise again for the 22-23 school year as more and more schools are getting on board and getting the Pixelot cameras. Here's what some options are, what's available if you decide to join the network. Obviously, gym and stadium cameras. I'll talk to you about the deal they have for schools now. They have now come out with cameras specifically for baseball and softball. We're seeing more and more of those get installed. Free installation and maintenance if you're part of the network. Most other systems that'll come to you don't provide that. In fact, the only things I think they kind of compete with them in is having gym and stadium cameras and some production software and the streaming capability from numerous apps there. But I think, as you can see, everything on the column on the left is where you see the benefits for being part of the network. They do a great job marketing events when you've got, like, I follow my kids' school, and when they've got an event coming up, I follow their school on the network. I'll get an email. You'll see stuff come across social media that, hey, this event's coming up, make sure to tune in, things like that. Another big benefit, any advertising you sell, if you sell to, Johnny's Car Wash down the road, you want to sell them, hey, we're going to put you in the top left corner of every single football broadcast, and we're going to sell it for $1,500 for the year. You keep 100% of that $1,500. So that's a big benefit in regards to the advertising. Compatibility with every coaching software tool that's out there. And specifically, you look there, the VidSwap is the coaching software tool they offer, which is $3,000 a year. Most of the others are $9,000 or more. And the deal, again, any school who's not a member of the network, if you sign up with them, and there's a contract you'll sign, there's percentages in regards to subscription fees that slowly increase year after year of what you get back. But another one of the big benefits is it's no fee for these cameras. These cameras are free. It's about a $10,000 value. Once they set it up, they'll come and install it. They'll do the maintenance for free. Once they set it up, it's just turnkey. There's very little you have to do other than kind of just keep an eye on it and let them know, hey, we got a problem. Tonight's game's not up. They'll walk you through it. A lot of the stuff they can correct remotely. Game film can be downloaded into any coaching software. So if you've got Huddle, anything like that, this game film can be downloaded and put into that. No power source is required at the camera location. There's a look at what the Pixelot cameras look like. Again, if you agree and you're not part of the network, they'll install these for free in your main gym and your main field. Obviously, your football field, probably a lot of you play soccer on your football fields. It could cover those events as well. You won't be charged for any upfront or ongoing fees for equipment, software maintenance, etc. And again, the revenue sharing starts right away. If you're interested in this, there's the information for our contact, the regional sales manager for the network. I've worked with Matt for many years. He's very easy to deal with. That's his direct phone number. I believe it's his mobile number. And there's his email address, matt.abramson@playonsports.com. He'll be the one to get you set up and answer any questions you have from a logistical standpoint, installation standpoint. We've got a lot of schools, again, that have now added the baseball and softball cameras. So that's something they can talk to you about. If you're already part of the network and want to reach out to Matt that, hey, we want to get baseball and softball on board, or one or the other, or if you're starting from scratch and wanted to start with the free ones or do it all at once, that's the best person to contact there with the network. So that's kind of the information I've got to review the media regulations, the best place to go on our website, if you go to twswa.org, you'll find that on our website by going to my TSSA and then clicking on media, then you'll see a link to media regulations from there. And all the information I went over in regards to the fees, the restrictions and the allowances for streaming events during the postseason is all in there. I'm certainly available anytime you have any questions regarding anything with the media. Email me, contact me at the office, and I'm certainly happy to help in any way I can. And I think I'm turning it back over to Mr. Reeves.
Thank you, Matthew. No, it's a lot of information. Next item is catastrophic insurance, but we're actually going to save that. That's going to be tomorrow. So really at this time, it's more of a question and answer. We've got about 10 minutes to stay on here. If anybody just has any questions about anything that's been covered, maybe something about anything that hasn't been covered. I will say this before, I know a lot of you might pop off. Again, this meeting has been recorded. Tomorrow's meeting will be recorded. My understanding is that our technology coordinator, Bradley Lambert, is going to merge those two together so that there will be one link that each of you would have access to and go back and watch any parts of the presentation that you'd like to hear more about or hear again. So I guess at this time, I'll open it up for questions. If anybody has any questions for the staff, and we'll do our best to answer them. I know we've tried to handle a few of those in the chat, but I'll just open it up for questions.
Mr. Reeves.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is Jeffrey Owens from Hillsborough. I'm stepping in as the athletic director for this year. I had a quick question regarding our golf sports. I understand that has like the quickest deadline for July 24th. However, I have a coach. She doesn't have any girls yet for the golf team. She's doing tryouts around August 2nd. So I disabled the sport for right now. But once she has people to add to her rosters, can I go ahead and reactivate the sport? And will that incur a fine if I do that?
I don't think it will, and that's a great question, Mr. Owens. And some of you may be in a similar situation where you're not sure whether it's right now in the fall or maybe in the future, whether or not you're going to have enough to fill the team. If, for example, you haven't filled that position as a coach, wasn't sure if you were going to fill the team, and you were to receive a fine from us, just contact us directly, reach out and explain it. We'll waive that. In many cases, we'll talk schools through that situation where, particularly if they don't have a coach hired, come in time and don't know whether or not they're going to have a schedule, something like that impacts the deadline. We can take care of that, but probably will receive that notification from us. That's an automated system where we just basically query all those who have not submitted by X date. But we can work with you on that. That won't be a problem. We can fix that.
Okay, thank you. And then also just for the non-faculty coaches thing, like I said, I'm stepping in, so I really don't have to. I got our list of non-faculty coaches, so basically I just need to go back and just see like, hey, if you've already had some do like summer stuff, do I need to make sure they have all their stuff? And then I tell them if they don't have their stuff, you got to cease coaching immediately until you get your stuff.
That is correct. Yeah, the bylaws do not allow anyone to deliver instruction to kids until they've completed all those requirements. So yeah, and if something were to happen, for example, under their direction, here's the reason why that's such a big deal. Those students wouldn't be covered with catastrophic insurance coverage. So it's a big deal, and there's a pretty hefty fine for that if you're, work, or if you have coaches that are coaching kids that are that have not met all those requirements. Make sure that you get all that squared away on the front end.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem. Anyone else got a question for the group that we could help you with? All right.
I have a real quick one, and it's just student plays varsity athletics in the 8th grade at a private school and then comes to your school as a freshman. 8th semester will still apply because it was a private school and they were a middle schooler in a connected school type deal? Or how do you handle that?
No, it's a great question. The eighth grade participation doesn't start that clock for the 8 semester rule.
Okay, 10
So participation as an eighth grader, many of you may have situations where you're a 6 through 12 public school, or you're a K through 12 private, or whatever that grade configuration may be. Maybe a transfer student that's come to you with an athletic record in eighth grade, whatever the case may be. 8 semester rule only starts with the beginning of the student's 9th grade year. So technically a kid could actually participate, 5 different years if they participate as an 8th grader.
Thank you.
I have a question here. So for my faculty coaches, they got to do the annual courses each year, correct?
There are some that they have to do annually, and those are the ones that are health and safety related. So state law requires that they do the concussion, sudden cardiac arrest course, heat illness awareness course, and I believe that would be the 3 that are required right now for everybody.
All right. And for the non-faculty, they got to do the fundamentals and the first aid.
That's correct, and they
course.
only have to do that one time. Just clarify
Okay.
that. They do it once and they never have to do it again.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
No problem.
Mr. Reeves, question in reference to a transfer student leaving one county, going to another county because their family member, a parent, or guardian is that they've lived with for 12 months is an employee in the other county. Are they eligible to play in the county of the new school where their parent is an employee?
Only
The
if
charter
they're, yeah, so the only provision that allows the student to follow the parent if the parent is working in another system is if the student is a student at the school where the parent serves as a full-time certified teacher, and then takes a position at another school as a full-time certified teacher, and the student then follows that parent to that school. They get automatic eligibility if that's the case. But there are many cases where that move necessitates that transfer take place. So I'll just give you an example. Say I'm a kid and I live with my mom, and I live with my mom. We're in a certain county. She's a 5th grade teacher. I'm a 10th grader at such and such high school. But she takes a position as an elementary teacher in a county that's 50 miles from there, and there's no other way that kid could actually go to school at the school they've been attending. They've got to go to the high school close to mom. Well, that student would not be eligible by rule. There's not a transfer rule that makes them automatically eligible, but that situation that I just gave you would probably be grounds for a hardship application if it can be determined that the student had to transfer as a result of the change in jobs to the new county, if that makes sense. But that would be a subjective decision that I would have to make based on the information that's submitted to us in that hardship application.
And last part of that question, that includes even if they had no prior experience at their former county as a student athlete.
Well, if they don't have an athletic record, then as long as they are living with their parent, then their eligibility would not be impacted as long as they meet all other eligibility requirements. The scenario that I gave you, I guess I should have prefaced it by saying that would be a student with an athletic record. If the student has no athletic record and they're living at home with the parent, then they're going to be eligible.
Thank you.
No problem. It's got a couple of more minutes. We'll hang on and then we'll sign off at 2:30. Anybody got a last question for us? We've got time for probably one more. All right, I see a question coming in from the chat. Brett Crawford, homeschool student's parent is a teacher at a school not where they're zone 4. Are they eligible to participate? I guess I need a little bit more clarification as to, whether or not they're wishing to participate in the county or where they are actually living. That's part of what's going to determine that. Can you elaborate on that just a little bit? So if the question is for whether or not the student could participate for the school in which their parent is a teacher, if they're a homeschool student, they would not be able to participate for that school if they live in a different county. Because in order to be able to participate as a homeschool student, you must have residence within the school district that your school is that you wish to participate for, if that makes sense. All right, I believe it's 2:30. We're going to sign off here. Again, appreciate everyone being with us. This meeting will be recorded along with tomorrow afternoon session, and hopefully you've gained a little bit of information, and certainly if you have any questions on the back end of this, you can reach out to us at any time. I'm glad to help you. Thank you again for your service. Thank you for what you do for our students, and if there's anything we can do to help you, just let us know. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mark Reeves, TSSAA. Excited to have everyone with us. Got a number of people that are registered for the new athletic director webinar, second day. We've got a lot of information to cover, and we're very pleased to have Mr. Mike Elson, the Executive Director of the Tennessee Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association. Mike's going to cover the first part of today. I'll just give you a brief overview of our agenda. Mike's going to be talking about TIAAA membership and certification through the LTC program. We're going to discuss a little bit with catastrophic insurance reporting, TSSAA Hall of Fame and nomination process, unified sports, and GoFan updates, as well as a message from Tennessee Athletic Coaches Association and just a brief message about the TSSAA portal. We'll also have some time at the end to have some question and answers. If you want to send questions through the chat feature at any time, we'll be glad to try to answer those about the topics that we're going to cover today, as you might have other issues that you might want to ask a question about, and we should be able to accommodate you on that. We'll finish, be no later than 2:30. If we finish a little early, that'll be fine as well, but we'll certainly hang on to at least 2:30 for any questions that you might have. At this time, we're going to try to make this transition as smooth as possible, but I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Mike Elson. It might take us just a second to swap our screens, but Mike's going to tell us all about TIAAA membership and certification.
Do window. Nope. No. Yeah, I got it. There we go. Wow. You want to mute your speakers there, Mark?
Yeah, just did.
Okay. There you go, Mike. All right. Oh, yeah, there you go.
Bradley, thank you for your help, and to you, Mark, and your entire staff for the way you all not only support us here in 2023, but for all of the years going back to Mr. Carroll and the establishment of the TIAAA. TIAAA is here to support our athletic directors as a resource, both at a state level and a national level. And I want to tell you all, I talked to ADs from around the country, and the relationship we have with the TSSAA, or between TIAAA and TSSAA, is really special and unique, and something that we don't take for granted. So with that, let's go into membership. So on your home site, school portal page with the TSSAA, there's an opportunity there for you to check a box and to become a dual member. What that dual membership is, you can see at the bottom of the screen, is that when you sign up for membership, you're automatically a TIAAA and NIAAA member. So what does that mean? Well, you get valuable articles written about issues or information that's pertinent to our role as an athletic administrator, state and national conference discounts. The LTC stands for Leadership Training Courses. There are approximately 58 4-hour LTC courses for the role as an athletic administrator, and there's discounts for those classes when you take those at the state conference. The next bullet talks about a student essay scholarship program, and the NIAAA and TIAAA provide scholarship funds for student athletes who have at least a B average academically, and the key is playing multiple sports, the same multiple sports in 2 or more consecutive years during high school. We've had a few schools take advantage of this opportunity, but anyone on this call, we want to encourage you to look for your student athletes, because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. There's opportunities to serve on within our state, and also we have several board members or members of TIAAA that serve on national committees, doing a great job of representing Tennessee. There's a $2 million injury and property liability insurance for events. Opportunity for state and national recognition. So we had a wonderful ceremony this past April recognizing a lot of our key leaders in the state. And then this coming December in Orlando, we will have our first ever female Distinguished Service Award winner in Kelly Fish being recognized, and also Cameron Hill for his completion of the Quality Program Assessment, which is a program similar to what academics goes through for academic accreditation. You can do that for your athletic program. And then again, term life insurance. And then one of the most important values of all is the ability or opportunity to network with state and national athletic directors. So this December is the 54th annual conference. It'll be at the World Marriott Center in Orlando, Florida. It begins on Friday, December 15. You can begin taking leadership training courses that evening, and it'll go through the evening of Tuesday, December the 19th. A lot of ADs that attend this national conference will typically arrive on Friday or early Saturday, and then they'll head back home on Wednesday morning. And if you have the opportunity to go, you're going to want to go to the awards banquet and help us celebrate Kelly being recognized again at a national level. So the 33rd annual Tennessee AD Conference is going to be in Knoxville. It's a new location this year at the Crown Plaza, which is across the street from Market Square. We're really looking forward to this new opportunity, this new location. And the Knoxville Sports Commission, along with the University of Tennessee, are jumping in, ready to help us, ready to serve. And we're excited about seeing what's in Knoxville, and hopefully, growing our number of attendees for our state conference. So again, if you had to choose between the two, state conference or national, we want to strongly encourage you to attend our state conference in April as you look to build your network as a new athletic administrator with other ADs from across the state of Tennessee. So certification, one thing that I was shown years ago is just the value of certification. Currently in Tennessee, there are no school systems that I'm aware of that pay if you get your certification, but it's more of a sense of pride and understanding and learning about best practices. So we're going to promote 3 levels for you today. One is becoming a registered athletic administrator. Certified athletic administrator is the next level, and then ultimately you want to get your master's in athletic administration certification. So here are the requirements for an RAA, and this is straight off the NIAAA web page. So there's a data form you fill out. Of course, you got to have a degree. There are 3 courses that need to be taken. Those are the baseline or foundation courses. And I'm going to speak to this in a little bit about an outreach opportunity that we have, LTC 501, 502, and 503. Your principal or superintendent needs to sign off that you're an athletic administrator. There's a code of ethics, and then you'll provide a PDF of your information. The CAA is the next level of certification, and you can see that you need 2 or more years of experience as an athletic administrator. You may now be an athletic director, you're the key leader, but maybe you've been an assistant for a couple of years, and those years will count towards your CAA opportunity. You can see about the employment, and then the additional classes of LTC 504 and 506 on top of 503. 504 and 506 are more legal athletic courses focused on helping us with the 14 legal duties, which is a slide I have later. And then you can go down through and read the other requirements. And then there is an exam that you have to take after completing all of the requirements that are bulleted. So if you need help with any of this, I'll have my contact information later, but we want to encourage ADs to get their certification. It just brings pride and professionalism to what we're doing as athletic administrators in Tennessee. The Certified Masters Athletic Administrator, certification, I'll take you down midway to the page where you can see the required courses that are necessary. And then there's also on the next bullet after it lists 501 through 510, you have to take 5 courses at a 600 or 700 level. And then there's a oral project that you can turn in or a written project. For example, Cameron Hill just finished the quality program assessment, and that will help him move from a CAA to a CMAA. You can also do an oral presentation, and Scott Dorsett was one of the first individuals in the nation that did that from the Webb School a few years ago. Again, the code of ethics at the bottom, and being able to demonstrate with your PDF all of the necessary requirements for the CMAA. The next piece, if you'll circle this on your calendar, if you're interested in certification, which we hope you are, on Saturday, August 26th at Hardin Valley in Knoxville, Hardin Valley High School, there is an NIAAA outreach. We had 3 outreaches in 2022, and we were granted approval again in 2023, which is an exception to the rule. You typically only get these every 3 years. But they granted us favor in Tennessee to offer this. And the courses are typically from, around $80 to $100 per course. And there's no charge. You just got to get there. And so this is a great opportunity. You can see it's a $300 professional development savings. And you'll take 501 and 502 in person at Hardin Valley on that Saturday. And then 503 you'll have to complete online. At the end of my little presentation, you'll see my email address. And if you're interested, please send me an email and we'll send you the registration link. Again, want to strongly encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity. The next piece are resources that are available. And in this PowerPoint is a link to our most recent summer newsletter for TIAAA. In that newsletter, you can click on the Professional Development Academy booklet, and it'll go through the 58 4-hour courses that are offered to athletic administrators. And in a recently developed document, the profile of an athletic administrator is also accessible online. And I've actually handed several of those out throughout this past school year and plan to continue to do so. So if I'm in your area and you need that, I'd be more than happy to give you a copy. But the profile of an athletic administrator is something you want to take to your principal, your superintendent, to demonstrate all of the things that you do as an athletic director that go unseen. And I was on the call yesterday watching Mark and several others lead that workshop, and just reminded me of all the tremendous amount of responsibility that you have. And these documents can be about best practices and great resources for you. The next piece, and if you're not aware of this, I would encourage you to take your phone out right now and take a picture of these legal duties, put them into your PowerPoint presentation at your coaching staff meeting, and remind all of your coaches and any assistant athletic administrators, athletic trainers of the responsibilities that we all have as athletic administrators tied to these 14 legal duties. I've got a much more in-depth presentation about the 14 legal duties. And again, you can email me and I'm more than happy to share that with you to share with others. The next piece is something we're going to try. We've talked about mentoring for several years. And, I saw a couple veteran folks on here, and, I think all of us that have been in this for a while would talk to the value and importance of having a mentor. So don't be afraid to reach out. We want to help. Those of us who've been in this for a while, we want to give back. We really care about the job that you're doing for your school community. And so but you have to reach out and demonstrate that you want to be involved. So reach out to us. We'll end up assigning a board member to you for our mentor program. And again, we're ready to get this launched here in 23-24. Michelle York of our board, TIAAA Board of Directors, she is our mentor chair, and you can see her email address here. So if you're interested in participating in this program, we'd love for you to email Michelle. She's eager to help you and get you connected with a mentor, someone that's been around the block a year or two as an athletic administrator. The next piece is an opportunity. If you take walks every day, or maybe when you're running, working out, listening to podcasts of stories of athletic administrators from around the country, I have found this to be of very high value. And so I wanted to recommend these 5 to you. There are several more, but these are the ones that, as I talk to athletic administrators across the country, these are the ones they, listen to the most. So these are just 5 examples that I wanted to share with you as a way for you to be mentored, if you don't have time this first year to, build a network with a specific mentor. But we do want to encourage that as well. So I looked at all the slides yesterday, and, Lauren went through a lot with all of the eligibility requirements. And I know she was a big help to us for the years that I was at CPA in Nashville. But the document you can see on the left is a compliance checklist, and it just simply goes through all of the necessary requirements that you have to think through. And I laugh when I see this, thinking about when I started in 1987, there was a physical form required, and that was it. And now the extent of responsibility that you have is, we know it's a lot. We recognize that. So be thinking about, meeting or checking off everything on that checklist. And then on the right, attended a function at Vanderbilt last week. It was awesome. There were over 200 individuals in attendance, and it was directly related to mental health, athletic trainers, sports medicine, and ran into an individual that was talking about sudden cardiac arrest and the training that goes on, and can't stress enough the high value of this. And Greg Wyatt of Siegel was, he was honored or talked about from the Safe Stars perspective of being a next level thinker. And what I mean by that is, they have training during or drills during practices and during contests of what it looks like to have an emergency action plan be activated in case something happens. And so, it's kind of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Be thinking ahead and striving to have the ability to look around corners. And you've got all these resources to help you with that. So here's the newsletter I was talking about, and we'll share this PowerPoint with you so that you can click on this link and see more details about what's available with the TIAAA. These are our partners that we use, and we want you to know as a TIAAA organization, we're looking for partners that can give you tools to help you be the best athletic director you can be. So I'm not going to mention any of these, but I just wanted you to see this image of the financial partners, the collaborative partners we have that provide tools for us. And then our board, we just had 5 new members selected. You can see their names, and we're kind of from east to west Tennessee, if you will. We've expanded our board from 9 members. We now have over 20 members, and we have a lot of touch points throughout the entire state of Tennessee. So here's more of our board members. And again, Kelly Fish is our current president. Scott Carroll's our past president, and then Greg Wyatt will be our president-elect. If you notice too, there's a picture there of Matt Cox, and he is athletic director at the Covenant School in Nashville. And if you've been paying attention to the news in the last 3 to 4 months, you know what he's dealing with as he tries to help their school recover from a very tragic situation. And then here are the rest of our board members. So wanted to share that with you. And then finally, if you want to take a picture of this or whatever, send me an email. Please feel free to text me or call at any time. Now that I'm a retired athletic director, I want to give back. And I'm ready and willing to help be an encourager, advisor, supporter, anything that you need from me for a TIAAA perspective. So with that, I'm going to turn things back over to Mark, and we appreciate you being on the call today.
Hey, Mike, before we turn that back over, maybe we just give everybody an opportunity. If you'd like to maybe ask a question, put a question up in the chat box for Mike. Anybody has one, I think we can take a couple of. Oh, I'm sorry.
Let's mute me.
Sorry.
I can hear him through his mic.
All right. If anybody has any questions for Mike, this will be a time you might want to put that in the chat box, or if you want to speak up, unmute yourself. All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and start our transition to the next part of our program. Try to make sure I do this correctly. Please.
Oh, sorry.
All right, spend just a few minutes. Well, first, let me just reiterate something I failed to mention to this group. We're going to email the links to the recorded presentation for both yesterday and today on the back end of this webinar. So any of you who are registered, if you missed yesterday or if you got to hop off early today, please know that you'll have that resource available for you on the back end. I wanted to talk just a minute or two about catastrophic insurance coverage. This is something we cover in all of our athletic directors meetings, our administrators meetings in the fall. In September, when we come around, we'll talk about this. But in Tennessee, we have catastrophic insurance coverage that is basically like supplemental medical for your student athletes that kicks in once $25,000 worth of expenses have been paid by someone, either out of pocket or by student athlete's primary insurance provider. You may recall, if any of you have been around for more than a year, a couple of years ago, we sent a letter out to let schools know that the deductible would be going from $15,000 to $25,000 beginning this year. So this is the first year with that $25,000 deductible. As we mentioned yesterday, catastrophic insurance coverage is a big part of the TSSAA budget. That's about a $900,000 a year line item for all of the insurance that we provide. Those of you who have football at your schools, which is a large number of you, as you know, there's a $6, most of you might know, there's a $6 per player assessment that's added on to membership to help offset some of that cost. And then as we point out in all of our administrators meetings, 25% of the gate receipts for football playoff contests are allocated toward that catastrophic insurance payment. Probably some of the most important things, though, for you to know is when are your athletes covered? And basically, the easy way to maybe remember it is this: if they are practicing during a time when the sports calendar allows practice, then they're covered with that catastrophic insurance. But outside of that, if they're doing weight training and conditioning during a time when practice isn't allowed, so if it's, in let's say April, and we've got weightlifting conditioning for girls soccer, then they would not be covered during that weight training conditioning session because that's not during a time in which the school is allowed to practice. But for individual sports, cross country, track and field, wrestling, et cetera, practice is covered, you're allowed to practice. There aren't any practice restrictions throughout the year. So if you're practicing those sports with no practice restrictions, you're going to be covered because that's during a time when practice is allowed. Okay. Team travel directly to and from a practice or a contest is covered as long as the group is traveling as a caravan. That if everybody's given a time to meet at such and such high school and everybody's driving on their own, they are not. When we do have our administrators meetings in September, generally our liaison to the company that has our catastrophic insurance generally attends those meetings and gets into detail as well with this. You can certainly ask more questions. When are they not covered? Again, weight training, conditioning, or open facilities during the off season are not covered. If you're at a summer camp on a college campus, basically, if you're going to like a team camp on a college campus, you wouldn't be, but if you're going to a team camp on a school campus, you would be. Student athletes, here's a big one to remember. Joe Blair yesterday spent some time talking about how you need to make sure that all of your non-faculty coaches have taken the required courses before they start coaching. If a student is injured under the supervision of a non-certified coach, someone who's not met the requirements, then they're not covered with that catastrophic insurance. A general rule of thumb is this: when you have an injury and there's any scenario where you think it might require surgery, it's good to go ahead and report that. And we have the contact information for Loomis and Lipan, which is the company that carries that catastrophic insurance, on the athletic administrators tab on the TSSAA.org website. That's one of those pieces of information that you'll find in that hub that we mentioned yesterday. But basically, you contact them directly to initiate and start the claim process, in which case Loomis and Lipan is going to ask for some information from the school, the name of the injured party, the contact information for the parent, the date of the accident, and a brief overview of what took place. And again, if it's not necessary to report all injuries, but if you think it might be significant enough where there could be surgery down the road, you're probably going to exceed that $25,000 deductible if you're going to have surgery. The sample of the claim form, this is not anything that necessarily, this is not something that you have to have. This is a sample of the form that's going to come back to you after they start the claim process with the parent. But the main thing for you to remember is start that reporting process if you've got a significant injury. If you do that, then whether or not a claim is made, you know that you've covered yourself. You don't want to find yourself in a situation where you've missed that claim window and you've got a kid that could have used that supplemental medical and they were not given the opportunity because we waited a year to make the report. All right, at this time, I'm going to ask Heather Carter to come over and give you some information on the TSSAA Hall of Fame. Heather's been with our staff for quite some time and has overseen the TSSAA Hall of Fame and the nomination and the execution of that event. So Heather, take it away.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. So I'm just going to take a couple of seconds and go over a little bit of the background of the Hall of Fame and just how it's selected and then how you guys could help us out with some nominations. So how do I change your slide? Oh, there we go. All right, so the Hall of Fame has been in place here at TSSAA since 1982, and we're currently up to 358 members. Every year we induct around 9 to 12. It's kind of an average number of inductees that go in every year. But the categories that we have for submission are administrators, coaches, officials, and contributors. And then kind of the way that they're selected, we have a selection committee that's made up of 9 members, and those members are kept confidential. Nobody knows who they are. Except for a couple of us at the office, and they're appointed by our board of control members, so they would know who they've appointed. But there's 9 members, there's 3 administrators, 3 coaches, and 3 officials. And they're selected from each of the 3 areas of our state. So they're from East, Middle, and West. And they'll serve a 3-year term. And then, like I said, when they roll off, we reach out to the Board of Control members in their area to give us a new person for their category. And the timeline, nominations are due in our office by November 1st of each year for selection the next spring. We usually submit those out to our committee to vote in December, and then they'll return them to us. We give them Christmas break basically to get those done, and then they'll turn those in January. And then we normally announce the new inductees in February. And then our ceremony, we have a luncheon and induction ceremony every year in April. So what we need from you guys, we're always looking for nominations. You know, we never want our files to get so small that we're not able to put people in. Our biggest categories with need are administrators and officials. But like I said, we also have coaches and contributors that can be nominated. The criteria for someone to be nominated, they need to meet one of the 3 that you see there on the screen. They have to be at least 50 years of age, or retired for at least 3 years, or just out of the field that they're being nominated for at least 3 years. Anybody can submit nominations. It doesn't have to come from a school. It can come from individuals. And I put the link there to the form. It's found on our TSSAA.org website. You can either click on that link, or if you go up into the search bar of our website and just type Hall of Fame, you should be able to find it that way. We have our Hall of Fame site is down at the moment. We're really trying to revamp that and do some new things with it. So you're not going to be able to go up right now and find a list. But if you're interested in nominating somebody and you want to see if they're already in the Hall of Fame or if they've already been nominated, then I've got my email address there. You're welcome to reach out to me and I can send you that list, or feel free to call me at our office here anytime. That's basically all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. This time, I'm going to turn it over to Miss Emily Crow, Emily's Assistant Director, and she's going to give you an update on Unified Sports.
Thank you. For those of you who don't know, we have a partnership with Special Olympics to have Unified Sports as one of our sanctioned sports in TSSAA. This is when you combine kids in your school who have cognitive impairment with able-bodied kids as a partner, and they compete together in that sport. We currently have a state championship each year in unified track and field, and we're hoping to have a fully sanctioned state championship in bowling this year as well. That's been an invitational until this point. So the dates for those, Friday, January 19th for bowling and Thursday, May 23rd for track and field. There will be some sectional qualifying events. So if you're looking to get involved in this and you haven't done unified sports yet, there's some opportunities to have some regular season competition and then get to those sectional events to see if you can qualify for these state tournaments. This is a really positive thing for our schools that have gotten involved to really get kids involved. Often you see partners getting involved who are not playing other sports, so it's a way to involve some other kids in this community of interscholastic athletics. Also new this year, there's going to be a pilot program for unified flag football this fall. That is available, I believe, in Davidson, Williamson, Knox, and Weakley counties so far. So if you're interested in that, you can either reach out to me or I can put you directly in contact with someone at Special Olympics. They're pulling that off with our member schools this fall. So that is the update on unified sports. At this time, I'm also going to update you on GoFan. GoFan is our official ticketing provider. We use GoFan for all of our sectional and state championship events for tickets. We've had a partnership with them since 2017, and today on the call we have Matt Abramson and Michael Young from GoFan. So I'm going to let them unmute themselves and talk you through the next few slides about what's going on with GoFan.
Hey, thank you about that, Emily. And so I previously worked with Tennessee, and Matt is now taking over the state and handling it on the GoFan side and the NFHS network with that. our partnership there. And Emily invited us on here to talk about a couple of things. But kind of what we'll do for y'all is you'll get your own custom landing page for event ticket sales, kind of like this one right here, and it'll customize for your school with your school logo, colors, and all events that you're ticketing for on here. I actually see a couple familiar faces on here. Al recently came on with GoFan back in March when I met with him, and they're using it for this upcoming fall as well. But Emily, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. Really on this, you'll have a back-end system where you can manage all events, track ticket sales, revenue coming into your department on what sport's doing the most revenue each month, week. Kind of right here down at the bottom, you'll see a fiscal school year chart to see how much revenue you've sold and all your ticket sales, total tickets. Really helps streamline audit reasons. So if that audit comes around in the spring and your finance person comes in, tracks all this stuff directly in here, makes it seamless for them to come in and breeze that audit right there. You can go to the next one too. Down below this is if you want to go into a specific event, you can track those in detail as well. You get QR codes, links. You can manage all attendees to track who's actually coming into your event. Easy cancellation and reschedule. On those pieces right there, if you want to cancel or reschedule, you can send an automated email out to anybody that's purchased a ticket to let them know that it's been canceled or rescheduled. You can track how many tickets are remaining to an event and even how many people actually came in that purchased a ticket on that side as well. All right, you can go to the next one. Then after each event, you'll get an automated summary over that shows how much money did you make from your game, how many tickets did you sell. It'll even go in more detail if you're having multiple ticket prices. So if you want to say, hey, I gave a free ticket out to somebody that came to watch a student for recruitment, adult tickets, student tickets, and revenue off of each of those ticket types as well. All right, next one, Emily. All right, and then once a week, you'll get a payment out via ACH or a check mailed to the school. On this right here, it'll show you how much revenue you made last week. So in this case, $4,105. Then it'll go on and show how much did each department contribute towards that total revenue, so you know how to allocate it on the finance side. And then down below that, all single events as well on top of it. And I think that's the last slide I sent over to you, Emily. Oh, one more. Yeah. So a new thing we've actually launched for this school year is concessions. So we've heard from a lot of schools as we're taking all digital at the gate. But now right here, your concession stands, you've still been taking cash. So in GoFan as well, you can do your concession stands. Fee structure operates a little bit different on concessions. So on your regular admission tickets, it's tickets $10 or less is $1 passed on to the fan. Over that is $1 plus 5%. Then on concessions, it's 30 cents plus 3% of the transaction price. Pretty much credit card processing is going over to the fan. So they swipe it and you can track all your revenue just like the regular events for concession sales as well. But yeah, this is actually the last one. And I just wanted to introduce Matt. Matt's going to handle anything. So if anybody has any questions, Emily should have Matt's info. He'll be able to get in touch with anybody and walk you through all the back-end system, answer any questions you have on this to help you get up and go in and use GoFan for the fall as well.
Thank you, Michael. And just to follow up on that, you know, we've used GoFan for several years, and there's a lot of benefits to this, especially since COVID. We've found that, you know, it's good to know how many people to expect. It means you can have less cash on hand, you can have less security. There's a lot of benefits. So if anyone has any additional questions that I can answer, feel free to reach out, or I can put you in touch with Matt Abramson about that. And at this point, I'll give it back to Mark.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Emily. Wanted to mention an opportunity. Many of you may be familiar with the Tennessee Athletic Coaches Association. We work very closely with this organization to help promote membership. I know they certainly help support us at our state championship events and support our coaches, but there's a lot of benefits for being a member of the Tennessee Athletic Coaches Association. And we have a number of schools and school systems even have explored the opportunity of purchasing membership for all of their coaches. And just to give you a little insight of what that looks like, that comes with, the membership comes with a $2 million liability insurance coverage. So a lot of folks like the membership just for that reason, if for nothing else, but it also gives access to all championship events that TWSAA host and football playoffs. So that membership, that in and of itself, can certainly pay for itself if you're planning on coming to any of the championships or football playoff games, etc. Also gives admission to the TACA hospitality room at the TSSAA football, basketball, and wrestling state championships. And then also the Tennessee Athletic Coaches Association has representation on the TSSAA Board of Control and the TSSAA Legislative Council. So they have an ex officio position, Bill Marbett, who's executive director of the Tennessee Athletic Coaches Association, or Pat Swallows, who's an assistant director, Russ Plummer, who's an assistant director. One of those three individuals are going to be at the table for each of the Board of Control and Legislative Council meetings. The Tennessee Athletic Coaches Association helps with the organization of coaches advisory committees that we have in our sports, and they actually have restructured their board to have an advisor from advisory coach from each of the sanctioned sports that TSSAA has under their umbrella. If you have any questions or you're interested in potentially purchasing that membership for your coaches, or if you think you just want to pass this on individually to your coaches, www.taca.net will put you in position to contact those who you would need to contact about membership. I don't have a detailed portal overview, but I know that most of you, that's the way that you interact in a lot of cases with TSSAA in registering eligibility, importing your schedule. There's so many things that the TSSAA portal now houses and gives you the opportunity to communicate with us. I will say this: Bradley Lambert, our technology director, has been the individual in our office who has built the portal from scratch. And when we go across the country and we talk with other states about their eligibility platforms and data management systems that they're using at the state association level, I can say without hesitation, I think we have the best one in the country. Bradley is just an amazing individual. And the things that he's been able to do, if there's something that you want to be able to do through the portal and you don't know how to do it, there's probably a way. It's just a matter of getting you the information to learn how to do it. And so what Bradley is going to be doing for us and doing for each of you, he's putting together a detailed overview of the portal. He's going to record a session where you can take a deep dive to learn anything that you need to know about the portal, from the most basic, entering core information from students, to anything more complex. And we will push that out to the meeting attendees who are registered for this webinar. He's pretty close to having that finished up. He did that last year, and I know he's got some new features that he's adding this year to the portal that you'll have access to. So be looking for that. That's coming down the pipe here really soon. And again, at this time, it's not we're not gonna make it to 2:30. We're gonna be finished much earlier than that. But we do want to give the opportunity for any of you to ask questions that you might have. If you want to put something in the chat while you're thinking about that, I want to reiterate what Mike Elson gave you at the beginning with TIAAA. If you have an opportunity to get to the state conference or the national conference, we highly encourage you to do that. I think in education, whether you're an administration, athletic director, your teacher, whatever the case may be, when you've got others that are in the same boat that you are, that you can connect with, particularly when there are different parts of the state, may have different perspectives, comes from different schools, that network that you can build is really priceless and really one of the most rewarding parts of being in this business. So I think you'll find great value. The classes themselves, the LTC courses, I've been fortunate to take a few of those, and I'm currently working on my CAA certification myself. I can tell you the content at those classes, it's fantastic. When I go back to my days as a teacher, I always felt like the best professional development that we would have was when it was being led by other teachers in our field, in our areas. And that's what you're going to find at the state AD conference, at the national AD conference, are other athletic directors, athletic administrators who are leading that training that understand the perspective and the seats that you're sitting in. So I encourage you to do that. And also just I want to say thank you. Again, we'll take questions if we got them, but I just want to tell all of you, thank you for what you do for kids, for the time, effort, and energy that you put in these positions, in the position that you're in. I know it's in many cases a thankless job. There's long hours. It's a lot of work, a lot of pressure. You're dealing with a lot of individuals sometimes that are not necessarily happy about decisions that have to be made. But I want you to know that we're here as an organization to support you. And if there's anything that we can do to help build systems of support that help you do your job to help support those kids that you are trying to impact, that please let us know that we're in this together. We're in this side by side. We want to help you any way we can. Anybody have any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself or put something in the chat box.
Hey, Mark. Hey, this is Al. Are all the sports this year going to have online videos for rules meetings, or how is that going to be?
Hey, Al, 1 second here. Let me turn mine down. All right.
Okay, now, Mark.
Coach Morris?
Yes, sir.
Hey, can you repeat that question? I'm sorry. We had audio mixed up on our end. Sorry about that.
I shut it down already. What sports are going to have rules meetings online?
That's a great question. So all sports will have a online option. And the way that has been set up now, and Legislative Council clarified that for us last week, schools will only be fined if they did not complete that online meeting prior to the date of first contest. So that online meeting is going to be made available, and that the launch date for each of those varies to some degree. For example, football will have an online version of the meeting. There's also a live meeting for football. And so if you're a football coach, you could attend the live meeting in your area, and you'll get credit for that. But there's also an online meeting that won't be up and available until after they get off the road for football rules meetings, because sometimes that discussion produces some clarifications that we need to put in that online meeting. But long-winded answer to your question, all of them will have an online option. I'm not sure if all those dates that they will be available are now up on our website, but look for those to take place around the date of first practice for each sport, except for those which have live meetings, which may not go up until after those meetings are complete on the road.
Okay, let's see here. Let me get my camera on. There we go. So the TIAAA or NIAAA outreach, what I'll need you to do is send me an email so that I can send you the registration link. We will start at 8 o'clock in the morning, have a 4-hour class until noon. And since we'll be in the Knoxville area at Hardin Valley, we'll be on Eastern Standard Time. We'll have lunch provided 12 to 12:30, and then 12:30 to 4:30, we'll teach or take LTC 502. Once those courses are completed, we will submit that information of who completed the courses to the NIAAA office in Indianapolis, and then they will send each of you individually a link where you can sign up and take 503. So that will occur again on Saturday, August 26th at Hardin Valley in Knoxville. Brian Brown is the Knox County AD, and he's doing a great job he's our membership chair as well, and doing a great job of, helping us with that coordination of not only membership, but the outreach. The conference is April 12th on a Friday through 15th on a Monday. So it's on a weekend in April. And we've gone back and forth. Do you go during the week? Do you go during the weekend? And we've decided to help, athletic administrators who most of the time are assistant principals over attendance, discipline, transportation, you name it. Y'all are wearing a lot of hats in your schools. And so we were trying to be sensitive to you missing school. And that's why we've pretty much gone on the weekends. So we'll have activities. We'll teach LTC courses. We'll have workshops. We're hoping that we get several leaders from the UT athletic department to be in attendance with us to help you build a network with the state university. So looks like Brett needs my email address. And if you can hear me, I'll just go ahead and say it. I'm not sure if I can type in the chat. See if I can do that.
And while Mike's doing that, just one other point of clarification. I think Shawnee has clarified one statement that I made. There is not a rules meeting for cross country. The cross country rules or rule changes are all contained in the track and field rule book, but we don't have an online meeting for cross country. Cross country coaches generally would attend the track or complete the track and field online rules meeting for any updates in cross country, which doesn't occur till the spring. Any other questions? All right. Well, hearing none, seeing none in the chat, we'll call this complete. We'll make a motion to adjourn. Second, we will send this to you. Course of training back in register. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you soon down the road. Have a great year.
Hey, Mark, I got a question for you specifically about Kirkwood. It's just about Kirkwood.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
The TWSAA fees, the Board of Education has not released our funds yet. So how long do I have to get that to you? Because I have no fundage to send my check.
You have no money.
I have no money. I got money, but Kirkwood doesn't have money. So I know, I will get it as soon as I get it, but right now I don't got it.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. We'll work with you on that.
Okay.
If our system were to produce a fine for submission of membership late or fees late, that could be because a lot of times that's automated. We grab a query of those schools who hadn't paid by such and such date. If you were to receive that before you have the opportunity to pay us, just hang on to it, send it to us with that explanation. We're not gonna hold you to that. We know you're good.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. All right. Everybody have a good day.